There's nothing worse than poverty. And the truth is that in India there's tremendous poverty. 80% or 75% of your people are very poor, hardly getting enough to eat. Half of your children, 50% children are malnourished. The UNICEF report says that 1 out of every 3 malnourished child in the world is an Indian child. There's massive unemployment in India. 10 million youth are coming into the job market in India every year. But only 500,000 jobs are being created in the organized sector of the Indian economy. So where are the other 9.5 million going? They become hawkers, street vendors, bouncers, stringers, criminals, beggars, prostitutes. There's massive prostitution in India. 20 to 30 million girls. They become prostitutes not because they enjoy it, but because in order to fill their stomachs, because of abject poverty. There's almost total lack of healthcare in India, except for the rich and powerful people. For them, there are very good hospitals. You go to Delhi, there's Max, there's Fortis, there's Apollo, etc. State-of-the-art hospitals, but they're extremely expensive. Common man can't go. So where does the common man go? He goes to quacks. Quackery is very largely prevalent in India because the poor man can't afford to go to regular doctors. So there's massive poverty in India, and because of poverty, you don't get respect. Let me tell you, you people are sitting here in America enjoying a comfortable life, but I must tell you the truth. In your working establishment, you'll get respect, but not in social life. Not because the color of your skin is brown or black, but because your country is poor. Nobody respects the poor. Do you respect a beggar on the street when you go walking? When China and Chinese and Japanese were poor countries, they were called yellow races by the Westerners and looked down upon. Today, nobody dare calls them yellow races because they have become a highly industrialized countries. So if you want respect, you have to make your country highly industrialized. You have to make it like North America or Europe. Otherwise, the way of the world is that poor people are kicked around, humiliated, not given respect, and that is your fate unless you make your country highly prosperous, and which is only possible when you make it highly industrialized. Because it is modern industry alone which can generate the wealth which is required for the welfare of your people and for raising the standard of living of your people. But to have a large-scale modern industry, you have to have a large market. And that is why you must keep India united. If it breaks up, where's the large market? If you read the history of Europe, that when nation-states were being created, why were they being created? Because industry was rising, was developing in Europe. And modern industry requires a big market. The feudal small principalities were an obstacle to the growth of modern industry, and therefore they had to be smashed. Modern industrial states had to be created. So similarly, our national aim must be to make India a modern, highly industrialized state, because it is only then we can create the wealth which is required for the upliftment of our people from poverty and all the associated evils. And as I said, modern industry requires a huge market. So we must remain united if we want our country to be rich and prosperous, and thereby get respect in the Committee of Nations. We must have a modern large-scale industry, and therefore we have to combat all divisive elements in our country. There are massive divisive elements in our country which are preventing us from progressing. Some people say, why not give Kashmir freedom? There are many Kashmiris who want separation from India. See, in fact, I gave a talk to Mr. Shekhar Gupta. If you go on YouTube, watch the talk. He interviewed me. Because one lawyer in India, I said that there should be referendum in Kashmir, let them have a referendum, and if they vote to secede from India, let them secede. I said, what is this nonsense you are talking? If you allow referendum to Kashmir and allow them to secede, then tomorrow Nagas will say, we also want referendum, they will also secede. Then Mizos will also secede, then Tamilians may want to, everybody will secede, and then the country will break up. Do you realize what you are talking? You cannot permit this. When the southern states in USA in 1861 wanted to secede from USA, they formed the Confederate States of America in 1861. Did Abraham Lincoln allow them to secede? He said, no, you will not be allowed to secede. And he went to war on that. He said, we'll have a bloodshed, but you will not be allowed to leave the United States. And the North was victorious in that war. So we must not allow either Kashmir or Nagaland or Mizoram to secede. Otherwise, where's the end to it? Just think it's all very easy to talk. Let them secede, let them have referendum, give them freedom. We have to remain. In fact, what I have said is that, in fact, the solution to the Kashmir problem is reunification of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh under a strong secular country. Because actually, Pakistan is a fake artificial state. It was created on the basis of the two-nation theory, which was a wicked British theory of divide and rule, so that Hindus and Muslims may keep fighting with each other. See, on the face of it, this is a bogus theory, this two-nation theory, that Hindus and Muslims are separate nations. When I meet Pakistanis, I feel no different from them. We look like each other, we speak the same language, Hindustani, we have same culture, we love Urdu poetry and common food habits, biryani and so on. So Pakistan was an artificially created country, and one day it will be reunited with India. Because you can't have a state on the basis of religion. Otherwise, no state can exist. Then if you partition India on the basis of religion, then let us partition England also on the basis of religion. Then one part of England should be given, a state should be created for Catholics, another part for Hindus, another part for Muslims, another part for Jews, another part, so many Protestant, Presbyterian, break up England also into 10 parts. See, every country has people of different religions. Maybe there may be more of one religion than other, but people of many religions. If you create a state on religious basis, no state can survive. This was a totally artificially created state, and I'm confident in 15-20 years Pakistan and India will reunite under a strong secular government which will not tolerate religious extremism or bigotry of any kind, whether Hindu or Muslim, and crush it with an iron hand. But we will become one country. Similarly, some people in India, they insult the people from the northeast. They call them Chinkis because they have Mongoloid features, and they insult them, people from Nagaland, which is very bad. I have often said that they should be punished who behave like this. You are breaking up the unity of the country. Those people are as much Indians as you are. Just because they have Mongoloid features doesn't mean that they are not Indians. You have got Caucasian features. You are also foreigners. Supposing their ancestors had come from China, but then your ancestors had come from maybe Persia or Russia or someplace. So all of us are really immigrants. 95% people living in India are descendants of immigrants or invaders. So you can't insult people just because of his racial looks. Then this Shiv Sena in Maharashtra propounded the Bhumiputra theory, son of the soil theory, Maharashtra only for Maharashtrians, by Mr. Bal Thackeray. Then Mr. Bal Thackeray should also leave Maharashtra and his family because they are also immigrants. The only real Bhumiputra in Maharashtra are the Bhils, the tribals. So all the Maharashtrians should also vacate Maharashtra. So what is this nonsense? I mean, there is no end to this. What happened, I think, in 1970s or 1980s, the Shiv Sena people started attacking South Indians. Attacking South Indian restaurants where they were serving idli dosa and all, and vandalizing the homes of South Indians and so on. Then in recent years, his nephew Mr. Raj Thackeray attacked people from UP and Bihar. That some person from UP is eking out an existence by working as a taxi driver or a small pawn shop. These gundas would come and break up the car, the windscreen of the car, or vandalize a person and beat him up. See, in your constitution, there is a provision, Article 19(1)(e), which says that every citizen of India has a right to settle and work in any part of India. The only exception is that there are some limitations about Kashmir and Northeast. Otherwise, a person from UP or Bihar has a fundamental right to live and work and settle in Maharashtra. Just as a Maharashtrian has also a fundamental right to settle in UP or Delhi or Bihar and work there. So how can you say that non-Maharashtrians should not come into Maharashtra, or that they are coming at sufferance? No, they are as good, they have as much right to live in Maharashtra as a Maharashtrian does. That is a constitutional right. So this is all anti-national activity that, it will balkanize the country. This Bhumiputra theory, Maharashtra for Maharashtrians, this is an anti-national theory, and I strongly condemned it. Then there is discrimination in India against Dalits, minorities, women. Professor Satyanarayan just now spoke about discrimination against Dalits. See, the truth is most people will not give, most people in India look down upon Dalits as inferior people. In fact, there was one lady, a professor belonging to the OBC caste in Delhi. So she was talking to me and she was saying, oh, my family members are very liberal, they married among so many castes, different castes. I said, madam, that is all very well, but just answer one question. If your daughter wants to marry a Dalit, will you permit that? So she said, no, that I will never permit. And she herself was of a backward caste. Between upper caste and Dalit scheduled caste, there is an intermediate caste. And she said, and in many parts of India, if a Dalit boy falls in love with a non-Dalit girl, both are murdered immediately. Honor killing is very prevalent. So there is discrimination that is on the basis of caste. I was Chief Justice of Madras High Court, and one judge of Madras High Court who belonged to the Dalit caste, he and his wife came to meet me, just a courtesy court. His wife was of an upper caste, and they had had a love marriage about 30 years ago or something. So his wife told my wife that when we got married 30 years ago, then my relatives performed my funeral rites. That for them I am dead. And thereafter they refused to have anything to do with me. Now this is the level of most of us. You look